Welcome back to another episode of the Hemo Life podcast. I'm your host, L.A. Aguayo, also joined once again by Dr. Joe Molesky and our special guest, Raul Ibarra. And today's conversation is going to hit deep because this episode isn't about treatment plans or lab results. It's about what it really feels like to live every single day with pain and still wake up with purpose. Our guest today, Raul Ibarra, is a severe hemophiliac who's walked through some of the darkest valleys of this disorder, from managing microbleeds that no one else can see to fighting the stigma that comes with pain medication and still showing up every single day with empathy, strength, and self-control. Recently, Raul went to Novo Nordisk meeting in LA and met other bleeders from mild to severe. And what he experienced there changed him. He saw the full spectrum of what it means to live with hemophilia, and it broke him open in the best way possible. So today, here to share his story, raw, honest, and unfiltered. So whether you live with a bleeding disorder or love someone who does, this is one of those episodes that reminds you you're not alone. So let's dive in. Raul, welcome to the show. I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So you told me that at the Novo Nordisk event, it really hit you, just being in a room with other bleeders who get it. What was that like for you?
Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Wagner Lemus because he's the one. So he had my phone number for like a decade ago, and he just sent like a sent all text, and he remembered my name from like a decade ago, and he said, "Hey, we're having a meeting. I remember you live in South LA, Fogo de Chao in downtown LA. Do you want to go?" And I was just like, "Oh my God, it's been so long since I spoke to him." And yeah, I said, "Yeah, sure." I didn't know what to expect. Never been to Fogo de Chao. I didn't even know like how I was supposed to be dressed.
So
And
who was it again?
Wagner Lemus, he is with Fidelitas
Okay.
RX.
Okay, I was
Pharmacy.
just trying to see if I knew who it was. Okay, I don't think I know him.
Yes, he's one of the specialized ones. I'm with
Gotcha.
Brothers Pharmacy. They're the ones who are in charge of my factor.
Okay, nice.
And then I'm with Kaiser. I've
Yeah,
been with Kaiser since I was a kid. I've just
okay,
always been with Kaiser.
nice.
Yeah,
So
because I
what's,
know almost everybody else is like either Children's or Cedar Sinai or was
mhm,
it orthopedic?
yeah. So let me ask you, what stood out the most about those conversations, hearing stories from people who infuse once every 2 years, all the way up to, you said, you're infusing every 48 hours.
Hmm. The main thing was like the person who has hemophilia, what factor they use, their management. The big thing was joint health. I kept asking everybody, like to compare, my arthritis versus their arthritis. That was
Mm,
the main thing. I was just so like, what's your joint health like? What's your joint health like? How are you dealing with that? Because that's the like number one issue that I realize now, Maybe as kids, you don't think about it until you reach this point where you go, oh no, you can't rewind that back. There's no surgery, there's no treatment. It's kind of, that's it. And that was the first question I'd ask, besides asking them, what factor do you take? What factor do you take? And they were
yeah.
all surprised that I was on alphanate. They were all surprised I was on alphanate. Like it felt like, oh wow, people they
Why
still
were they
make that?
surprised about that? Because everyone's switching to newer medications? Is that the
Yeah,
thought
so the
process?
major one was what is it called? Altuvio?
Yeah, that's would
Alutuvio?
be a
Al- Altuvio's one? I mean, there's,
Altuvio,
mhm.
Hemlibra,
Alhemo.
and
There's an Alhemo.
Alhemo,
Alhemo's
and
brand new though. That's like really new. So I'm not sure how many
Yeah,
yeah, so
people.
that was the sponsor. Alhemo?
Oh, Alhemo, because it's the Novo Nordisk program. Gotcha.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. That's the one. Yeah, that was the
Yep.
one they were telling me about, Alhemo, which looked very interesting.
So
And
what are your thoughts on that then? I mean, what was like the overall? I'm kind of like
mm,
excited to hear about like what people were thinking about this new medication.
so everybody, the main thing they pushed upon me
Hmm.
was you're on Alphanate. I was on Advate before. Advate was
Mhm.
only once every 12 hours if I was bleeding to once every day, and the half-life was very, very, very short. Like looking back, I should have switched off of that years prior because the half-life was so short. I was training for the marathon, and I had a lot of bleeds in my elbow, which
Mm.
resulted in a lot of joint damage during those years. Versus now, where Alphanate, it's 24 hours, so I have at least that coverage before it kind of falls off. And they were all telling me about their experiences with the different factors, and the main one was Hemlibra. That was the one they were telling me about, Hemlibra, and they
Okay.
pushed upon me like you should switch.
I
How old are you, Raul?
32.
Okay, so I'm 38. LA, you're 37,
7.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So we grew up on Factor. All right. I was on Advate. You said you were on Alphanate. There's been Cogenate, Adynavate. These are all factor-based products. And so,
Mo-
yeah, it's interesting to see like the newer generations, like they've only thing they've ever been on is like Hemlibra or subcutaneous. They never had to find a vein or whatnot. It's just interesting to see that transition. I mean, me personally, this is just, I'm a patient. I'm not just a doctor. I'm a patient too,
Hmm.
because I have severe hemophilia. So I personally prefer the factor because it's something that I've always trusted. Like I'm a little, I guess, skittish when it comes to the subcutaneous injections. That's just me personally. I don't know about ULA, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
sounds like,
we even from our meetings, I mean, we've had discussions with the Novo reps,
yeah, yeah,
and there was cases where the injections caused some kind of
yeah.
what was it, like were they like kidney stones or what? I don't know what they
I think
were.
so. There
I
was
don't.
some liver issues, and
I forget
there was
what it
some
was,
liver
but
issues and stuff
they
like
said
that. But
they realized in their studies that at one point you have to go in for a checkup to see how it's going and making sure you're not
yeah,
having those kinds of reactions. I won't speak too deep into that, but I just
no,
remember
no,
them saying that there was things that happened during that time frame that you have to monitor. So
Yeah, they
yeah,
kept telling
that's
us like
interesting.
black box. They said something about black box studies. I think they were saying
Yeah, I'm
the
not
rep.
sure. Like I said, Dr. Joe and I, we had about an hour meeting with them because they showed us the device and how simple it was,
It
yeah.
is.
but it was a daily use. So as opposed to Hemlibra,
Him Libra,
which is like once a week or something like that. I'm not
Hmm.
100% certain, but
yeah.
so they were asking, what would it be like to do that every single day? Like, is that a deterrent for some people? What do you think, Raul, is like
But
doing like, or go ahead, Dr. Joe.
yeah, but it is like, and I'm gonna get Raul's take on this. Is like you have to use it daily, but the needle size was smaller. So the Alhemo was like, you have to do it daily, but the needle is so small. It's like the size of like a hair, like a human hair. It's like super small. So that was her trade off. I mean, what's your thoughts on these new, injectables?
So for Alhemo, I was very impressed with how little liquid it actually administers
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
top
Yeah,
of the little tiny needle. Because they
it
did
was
give us
interesting.
an example, and everybody was playing with it, and some people pushed the button, and you hear it when it like popped out and squirted. And the main thing for me at my age is like vein health, because I have an aunt who's a ER nurse, and she's met hemophiliacs in their 50s, and she's kind of like the hemophilia nurse because she knows so much about it. So the doctors would come to her and be like, "Hey, there's a hemophiliac."
Okay.
And she met a person who he was having a bleed. I think he broke his arm, so they had to sedate him and they had to inject him in the neck in order to find that emergency vein. So that's been my like worry with like what is my vein going to look like, every 48 hours and 10 years and 20 years.
Hmm.
And
Sure.
with the subcutaneous, I mean, I had a port, I've been
Me too.
injected. It's kind of like, it's you got to get used to it, whether you like it or not. Even the idea of injecting yourself is so uncomfortable because you have to inflict yourself pain. And
Yeah.
I don't know how it would look like the little scars after a while, or if you can even hit the same spot, or if you have to move around, or what that even looks like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I
for it
mean,
to be every day, and it's just, I mean, you don't have to mix anything. You don't have to get needles. You don't have to get syringes. You just, what is it, a replacement needle, or
yeah.
clean
Screw
it.
on tip. It's like a needle that has a screw on tip.
Oh,
So I
okay.
mean, yeah. So it's just interesting, just like anything when something new comes out. Figuring out like, hey, is this something that I can see myself doing? Looking at the risk and benefits, and I don't know. It's interesting. I'm happy that they're coming along with these new innovations.
Hmm. Yeah, I never imagined it. I remember they would tell me like, oh, we'll have 4 days of factor in 20 years.
Hmm.
It'll be once
Do
every
you
4 days.
do you remember, Raul, like the big syringes? Like you'd have to like put so much factor in. Like I just know,
Hmm.
like back in the day, it wasn't like 5 cc's. It was like 30 or 40 or
30
50
or
or
40,
60.
because each box was like 200 units. And
Yeah.
they would just give us no. So like my friends from high school, they supported me so much through even people in high school, and they didn't believe me when I would tell them, "Hey, I need you guys to go with me because they're gonna give me 8 boxes of just two little things."
Huh.
And one time we went with me, and I bought a McDonald's, and they just started handing out boxes and boxes. And in my friend's truck, we loaded it up. It was 8 boxes, 200 units each, 60,000 units. 4,000 a dose. So you could probably do the math there. And because it was, we were just like, hey, is this going to get hot? Is this going to expire? We rushed home so fast. Back when I had to go get it at Kaiser, we rushed home so fast. And that, like, That's one thing I'm grateful for with the newer stuff is that it's more
Mm,
consistent in the higher
Yeah.
dosages. I remember when with was it Advate when they one time they sent me a 4,000 unit box that was black. It was all black, and I was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" That was cool. So for that alone, because in the 90s, I remember they would just say, "Yeah, there's no factor available. It only
Yeah.
the companies can only dispense so much," and we would have to fight. We would fight like we would have to fight with them. We have to tell them, there's an inhibitor, he's bleeding, he needs it. We can't just survive on however many 800 units for a week or for a month.
Yeah.
So
So
let
that
me.
change alone has been incredible.
So I'm curious on a spectrum right now after the Novo event, on a scale from 0 to 10, where zero, there's no way in heck I'm gonna switch. 10 being like I want to switch tomorrow. Where do you find yourself on that spectrum right now
I'm
of
still
curiosity and research and comfort?
I'm still 50-50.
50-50, right in the middle, huh?
Yeah, because I used to take, what was it called, monoclay. When I had my inhibitor, they took something that was yellow, and then they gave me cogenate, and I all got sick from all three of those. Like
Ooh.
I would
Okay.
vomit, I would get dizzy, I would vomit, I would get like hot flashes. So each one of those factors from a young age, because I had an inhibitor, they had to give it to me. I would take it, and then I would vomit immediately. So that's three different factors. I've had mixed results. Alphanate itself, I don't know how to describe it, but like up here, I would always feel something. I don't know if that
Mm,
was the liver. It was consistent. Even right now with I'm sorry, Advate, I'd feel something. Even with Alphanate, every time I infuse, I feel like my joints always feel achy.
mm,
So I
Huh.
always have to infuse at night. So like I'm very sensitive. I'm very sensitive. On top of
yeah,
tasting it, I've always been able
yeah,
to taste it. So I'm very sensitive
same.
in that
I
aspect.
could I could taste mine.
My mother too, she's very picky on her medications. Even though it'll be
Hmm.
generic, she'd want a certain company because she says it just feels different.
Yeah,
And
Sure.
like I've gotten sick from flu shots, I've gotten sick from so many medications, and like it just always feels so. That's my worry about like what is it gonna happen? Because I'm gonna feel
hmm,
something. If each factor I felt something, what is this gonna feel like?
yeah,
So
Especially with Hemlibra and how they talk about the loading doses, how they have to like
hmm,
load you up,
yeah,
what that experience would be like. And then with Altuvio, it's a week. So like, what if I take it and I just feel bad and I have to wait a week? That's
yeah.
my main worry because they
yeah,
kept asking me, "What are you afraid of? What are you afraid?" They pushed me. They were pushing
yeah,
me hard. I had three, four people that were
yeah.
like, "What are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of this?"
Dang, they're
If
trying to get
if
some answers, man. They need some
yeah,
answers.
they were kind of telling me if factor didn't exist yesterday and factor existed tomorrow, why wouldn't you take it? And I was just like, I'm just afraid. I said, I'm just afraid. I've gotten sick so many times, and not just that, but the cost. Like, what if they give it to me? This amount of money was spent, and then I don't like it or I don't want it. Now I have this expensive thing
Yeah.
that
I mean,
what can I do with it?
in my opinion, on any medication, I don't care if it's hemophilia, it's antibiotics, it's cholesterol medicine, blood pressure medicine. You really just need to like, in your case, you're sensitive to meds. You need to look at like what are the side effects.
Hmm.
I mean, I know we just take it for granted, like, oh, hemophilia, it's going to stop bleeding. But what about looking at the side effect profile? You need to do that too for any medication.
Hmm. Yeah, and then I mean, if it were to make you vomit, and it's like, well, I either get nauseous or I keep bleeding. It's kind of like it's the trade-off, and that's kind of how we've looked at it. Because a lot of times the doctors, when I was a kid, I was a kid, so they didn't really take it seriously. They would see me get sick, but I had an inhibitor, and I was bleeding, and at the time I didn't have a port yet, so I had to go in every day or so, or just go to the emergency room. So it was very, in that aspect, it was very unfortunate that I couldn't advocate for myself yet. My parents, they didn't speak English yet. They just sort of were like, telling me, like, you have to just go through it. This is just what it's like. Versus now, where I'm older, where I'm more willing to advocate for myself, even if it's just something small. I get nauseous. I feel weird. I don't like it. After a year of telling my doctor that, he'll finally go, hell yeah, you've mentioned that before. Even if it's so tiny that, like, what can a doctor do at that point?
Have you spoken to your physician about new treatment options?
Yes, he has been updating me ever since like the gene therapy stuff because
Mm,
he was around 2021. He was telling me, "Oh, I'm gonna have a meeting soon with all of Kaiser, and we're gonna discuss the treatment options and like how we're gonna go about the process with the hemophilia B." I forgot what was the treatment that was gonna be used, but he was telling me. He was telling me about it. He was telling me about the data. He was telling me about everything and how they were gonna actually start calling patients to be like, "Hey, we would like to administer this thing. Would you be interested in it?" So he's been very hopeful about it. It's just with hemophilia A, he personally has told me like, I want to see more data. I want to
mm.
see 5 to 10 years of what it looks like. And
Interesting.
that's
Yeah,
where
and I agree. I don't know, like with anything, how I am. I mean, you sounds like you're sensitive to meds.
Mhm.
Well, and I'm the same way. I just like if they came out with a cure tomorrow, I'd be like, we got it, cure, let's go, let's just inject you. I'd be like, hey, time out, time out. I've lived 35 years. I mean, I've lived 38 years on this planet on factor, and I've been pretty good. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know. I would agree with your physician. I need to see more data. Like, with anything, any new and cool things in medicine, it might be approved, but I just like, I don't know. I want to see the timeline. I want to see the more data points. Like, I'm not the type of guy that just like, yep, hook me up, let's go. Like, that's just not,
Mhm.
I don't know. I think, Raul, you're probably the same.
Yeah, I'd rather have a person tell me if like I'm on it, this, I took this gene therapy. First of all, like what it feels like, because I've spoken to some people that were on Hemlibra and they said how after a year and a half, they were doing physical activity and they were still having smaller bleeds where you still needed factor to replace and cure those bleeds. And that's what my doctor said with Altuvio, where he said, yes, I can give it to you, but he said you would still have to have your alphanate on hand for breakthrough bleeding because he knows I like to run. He knows I like to go to concerts, a mosh pit here and there. I help around the house. And he said, you can get hurt and Altuvio might not be able to fully cover you, but you might have that breakthrough bleeding. And that's where the second thing was like, do I want to balance two factors at that point?
Mhm.
Like, how would that look like? So I'm only receiving half of my alphanate on top of the Altuvio, and then I need everything, all the injection supplies. What's that going to look like? So then that's when my doctor's like, if you feel comfortable with this, which I do, it's like, hey, it's not broken, it works. It's just the 48 hours. That's the other thing that they were like,
Yeah.
I'm once a week. I'm once a week. You're every 48 hours. And then a couple of other people, like the mild, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. The ones that were like, oh, I infused 2 years ago. I
Yeah.
infused 5 years before that. And you're every 48 hours. And I was just sort of like, yeah, I mean, it's better than 12 hours, I guess.
I mean, for us severe hemophiliacs, like I feel like for me, like growing up, we're all kind of like the same age. It's like, I if I'm gonna go to a concert or do something, run or something like that, go do a marathon, like I want to make sure I'm factored up. Like I don't want to
Hmm.
be like, oh, I did a shot 7 days ago and maybe I'm gonna be okay. Like that's not like I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like it's maybe a psychological thing, but like if I'm gonna go lift weights or I'm gonna do this and that, I want to factor up. Like that's just
Hmm.
something that's ingrained in I think us 30-year-olds. I think maybe like the 20-year-olds. I have a brother that's 25, severe hemophilia as well. And
Hmm.
like he's on factor, but maybe his generation would be more apt to be like, no, 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 just give me a shot. Whatever, I'll be good. I'll see you next
Hmm.
week. Like, I don't know. I think that's where we're a little different because that's what we grew up on. Like, you just talked about like picking up a big truck full of medicine. That's what we're used to. Like, fill up the syringe. Like, we gotta factor up because we got a concert tonight, or we gotta run a 5 mile a 5K or something. I don't know. Like, I think there's a psychological component too.
But there's a huge psychological component. And even like if we were to be cured tomorrow, I don't know. I feel like it'd be more negative than positive because so many things would just, oh, I can't do that. I might get hurt. Oh, you know what? Maybe. Because I mean, you live your life through so much like, I can't do
Yeah,
that. I gotta watch
yeah.
out. I gotta go down the stairs. And to suddenly have it gone, it'd be an identity crisis at that point.
Yeah, let me ask you this. So when you were out there and you were conversing with everybody, did you like I know you guys talk probably meds and stuff like that, but did you guys like what me in LA really when we do these events and stuff, we really love getting everyone together. At our last
Hmm.
event we had like 20 plus people. It was a great event in Houston, Texas. And at this event, my question to you is was there a lot of guys there that you were able to connect with and just start like a relationship where you guys we're really being into mentoring and like really like gathering everyone together to build friendship, mentorship, and long-term connections. That's the kind of camaraderie that you experienced there? What else did you
Yeah,
experience?
yeah, I did feel the camaraderie because uh, a lot of them through children's, they've been seeing a lot
Okay.
of what is it, Dr. Guy, I believe his name is.
Okay.
They've been seeing him for before when they were teenagers. So a lot of the people knew each other already. There was a lot of people that haven't seen each other in a while. Everybody knew each other. And then so I came in kind of feeling weird at first because I was just sort of like, I'm just some random guy. But then I don't know. Once you started talking, it's suddenly like it opened up again. I guess it's kind of like, oh wait, no, we relate so much.
Yeah, I think the
So
relatability is huge. Like
yeah.
to be able to say I've walked in your shoes. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know. That's something that's really special, I think, for somebody that might be confused about where they're at in that step journey of their life, whether they're adolescents, adults, or they're raising a family.
Hmm.
Just to be like, yeah, I've walked in your shoes. I'm actually raising a family myself. Me and LA, we both have 4 children, young children. I do, and I just brought my baby boy into the world about 3 weeks ago. LA is going to have a daughter coming into the world in the next couple weeks. So
Yeah.
we're at that same life journey to get like together, and I think just having that ability to connect. We both have hemophilia. We've both been through a lot of struggles in our life, and so I don't know. We hope that with any event that you go to, you're able to connect. I mean, and have that camaraderie, that brotherhood. That's what
Yeah.
we like to do in our events.
Yeah, you said
Hmm.
that there was a moment that you described, and it made me stop reading it. You said when you saw the kids at the event that it broke you. You said, I just wanted to hug them and take their pain away. Makes me
Yeah,
wish
that
I was the
was.
last hemophiliac in the world. That's a heavy and beautiful thing to say. Talk about that moment. What went through your head?
So there was a kid who he was on his first, he was 9 or 10, and he was on his still on his first port. So I think
Okay.
he had it since he was 3 or 4. And she told me that she had a friend who wasn't there who was at 15, and he still was on his first port. And it blew me away because I had 4 ports, 1 7 years, 1 7 years, 1 month, 1 month. So to me, I thought that was the limit. Like you go to there and you just kind of had to move on. And no, he still has this like what they call a baby port. So it's like this little tiny thing, and she just says like it just they make it work. He has to like really stretch his chest out and to get it, and he's used to that. So the idea for him to actually inject himself scares him, and he says he almost has like panic attacks. And they were asking them, what are you going to do as he gets older? How is he going to slowly learn how to actually infuse himself? Is he
Hmm.
going to want it to continue getting ports, or will he want to switch to like the subcutaneous ones? And to the kid, I immediately showed him my port scars, and I said, look, like you have one right here, I have one right here, and I just told him like I don't know, I just felt so much like grief, so much like. Oh, little buddy, there's so much you have to go through. There's so much you have to experience. And unfortunately, learn as a hemophiliac. Like, you do have to learn how to inject yourself. You do have to learn how to advocate for yourself and how to process pain and how to process all these emotions that go through you.
Yeah.
Through my teen years, I found out the hard way. I lashed out a lot at people because I didn't understand. And
Mhm.
to see like someone who would have a panic attack at trying to inject themselves, it's kind of just like, oh man, like you almost have to sedate yourself to inject yourself. And it's just like, you shouldn't have to go through that. And like what, 15 years ago, I assumed every kid had to get a port. That's what it was like one in the 2000s, where every child had to get a
Yeah,
port.
I had a port.
Yeah, and then now there's more options where you could actually start with subcutaneous, and then you don't have to. Like there's so many options now that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so like hopeful, because it almost makes me feel like just like this old relic of like we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be done. There's new ways, there's better ways. And it's hopeful for me for the kids because they have options, first of all. There's so many options, there's so many
Yeah.
different treatments.
And
But then
their joints can be saved.
that's the second thing too that makes me sad of like I just wanted to be like deep down inside, I'm sure every hemophiliac must feel it, where they want to prove to themselves or prove to the world something physical that they
Hmm.
can do. I've spoken to a hemophiliac that played football, like tackle football, and I wanted to be like, whoa, what are you doing? And he just said, no, I just infuse. I infuse and I go play. And that was his life. And I wanted to be
Yeah.
like, hey, take care of your joints, because but he said, no, no, it doesn't bother me. And then for the kids, I mean, I ran the marathon. That was my thing. I
Yeah.
ran the marathon twice, and it did mess me up a little bit, but I had to do that for myself. And for Aguayo, I mean, he lifts a lot of weights, so I'm sure like we have that thing we want to prove to
Yeah.
others that we can do it, that we're not weak,
Everything
we're
you
not.
say, everything you're saying, I resonate so deeply with. I mean, it's
Hmm.
hitting home. Like, I mean, I'm getting chills a little bit just because it's like there's somebody else living this exact same life, going through these same emotions. And it's weird how we go through this. And when we think about the next generation, what they're going to have to go through, it like really affects us because we wouldn't
It
wish
does.
this on our worst enemy, despite the fact that we did find a way to still live our best life and that we did become better people. We've grown from this disorder. Um, it's which is amazing as well. Like Dr. Joe said in the last episode, is like he wouldn't be who he is today without going through what he went through. So it's a blessing and a curse at times, but the future looks hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the second thing too was the people in support. of the hemophiliacs.
Yeah.
Because there was an individual who, his wife, they've been together for 3 years, and she was there at the meeting because she kind of wanted to understand how best she could support her husband. Because she said, sometimes I've tried to understand his pain. He described it to me, what he feels, what he might need, and it like really brought memories back to me in high school. So I visited a friend over the weekend, and I met her mother, and she told me how when we were 14, she would come home to her mom one day, and she said, "Mom, I have a friend who has a bleeder. He sometimes bleeds from his elbow. He sometimes bleeds from his ankles. One day you're gonna have to take him home to his house because he walks home." And she told her like, you have to do this for me. And her mom was confused. Like, what do you mean he bleeds? What are you talking about? And she was like, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to have to do one day. Maybe one time he's going to come to the house, and I want you to understand this is the type of individual he is. Her mom told me how, like, this little girl that was 14, 15, and she'd be crying to her mother because she would tell her, he's bleeding. I saw him today at school crying, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do it for him. And at school, I didn't understand. I would just say, I don't know, distract me. That's all I would say. Some sort of distraction, just not think about it. And meeting her mom and being reminded of that, it just reminds me of like, no, don't feel bad for me, let me be the person in pain. You don't have to feel bad for me. Just sort of like, if I ask you to do something for me when I'm bleeding, whether it be hand me something, if I'm on my cane or my crutches, but don't feel bad because then we're all in pain. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like what we're trying to prevent here.
Yeah. That's powerful, man.
So
That's
that
really
was the,
powerful.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, with my parents, I'm kind of like, well, they're my parents. But with my friends, it's kind of like, God damn it.
Yeah, yeah. I personally had a lot of my friends that helped me or whatnot, and my friends, sometimes they didn't understand, and
Hmm.
I was made fun of a lot in school. And I don't come from a line of doctors or anything like that, so I had to like really fight tooth and nail to get where I'm at. But I've had a lot of good mentors. Interesting enough, my mentor, the guy that really inspired me and helped me through med school, was from Guatemala.
Oh,
And
really?
so, yeah, Dr. Byron Santos. So he was an ophthalmologist. He lived in Guatemala, and he came here when he was in his 40s. And
Wow.
he was my mentor. And so, I mean, just like you were saying that, having these, people in your life that really inspire you, or, maybe just strike a chord with you, I think that's really essential for any bleeder to have somebody that's just there to be their sounding board and their support. Like you just said, like you just distract me, just help me through, but I don't want you to suffer. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I think having hemophilia really builds you up in certain aspects, but we're still human, we're still real, and there's times that we can cry, we can be sad, we can be upset, because we don't want to wish this on anybody or any future generations. But being in our 30s, we did have to deal with a lot of pain, believe it or not. You know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I've dealt
Which
through so much. I've
which
dealt through
that
so much.
I have a question before I jump into the next segment.
Hmm.
Did you kind of like live your life, and do you maybe still feel like you live your life misunderstood with a lot of
Um,
things, or do you feel like
yeah.
people are, or do you like with relationships in your life?
Misunderstood. Maybe not now that I can describe and I can show people. Like I can show them what hemophilia is, what it isn't, because obviously you've heard it. So if you cut yourself, you die. Or so
Hmm.
Yeah.
if you just get a little cut, you're gonna bleed to death. And I'd be like, no, 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 I've gone into mosh pits, so it's not that.
Yeah.
It's not that easy. But also, I mean, I grew up in a lower income part of Los Angeles, so there was a lot of ignorance as a kid, and I was made fun of a lot. I was made fun of a whole lot, and all through elementary school and middle school. Believe me, I cried because my parents taught me that, like, if you're in pain, you cry. That way, you let it all out. And I
Hmm.
was made fun of for it because in my head, I thought like that's just how you express yourself. And then slowly through those years, I had to toughen up. I had to really toughen up, and I kind of pushed myself to one day, like, no, I'm not gonna cry anymore. I'm just gonna just not. Doesn't matter how much pain I'm in, I'm not gonna cry. And it was good and bad because when you're in pain and you're in those depths of despair, especially as a teenager with so many emotions, it was not that good. And then later on in life with my ankle pain and my arthritis, I realized how like we can just go into some holes. We can go into some really, really deep holes, and you don't come out of it the same. You come out of it, shell shocked in a way
Yeah.
because you understand that, like I understand that at least when I'm in that hole, I'm gonna think of some crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever goes through your
Yeah.
brain just kind of goes through your brain, and you let it go through. And when you come out the other side, then you can process it. Then you can either block it in, and however it is, and just understand that was a different me
Mm-hmm.
versus, when I was in pain. And
Yeah.
a lot of my friends, the reason they look up to me as a teenager was because they always told me how you have so much life. You just have so much energy, so much life in you. And then when you're bleeding, it all just is
Mm-hmm.
not there anymore. I don't have hemophilia, and yet I want to complain about things. I want to complain about life.
Yeah.
And here I see you, and they would just say, you live your life so much, and you understand life, and you have a perspective that is just so different from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have so many people that, like, they never complain. They never want to complain about their own pain to me, because they all want to say, my back hurts, my joints hurt, my knees hurt. And then they look at me and say, oh yeah, I'm sorry, it's probably nothing to you compared to you, the stuff you go through. Or whenever they do feel pain, whenever they do feel really bad pain, they'll say, is this what he feels? Is this what he feels when he's bleeding? And I've always described it as, like, if you ever put a marble on your joint and you put a weight on it, that might be what you kind of feel as the joint bleed. And they would tell me, like, yeah, I would never do that. And I tell them, yeah, and that's what we have to go through. That's the pain we have to experience.
Yeah.
So it makes you grateful. As I gotten older, it makes me grateful for the people that support me. But then I also understand there might not be people that understand it, that want to understand it. And my goal growing up has been, like, if I can teach a person about hemophilia, that if they ever meet another hemophiliac and they know, oh, okay, so I understand. So you take factor. What factor do you take? What is your dosage? I understand. I already know that hemophiliac is going to be so open because they don't have to say the same script that we've pre-prepared for for many people to say many times, to encounter the same amount of questions. And that's kind of like the one thing I've had. I actually do have family in Guatemala who are doctors, and my cousin, she specialized in coagulating and bleeding disorders, because over there, unfortunately, factor is expensive, incredibly expensive. And she is the head of a lab where I believe they specialize in trying to find cheaper and alternative ways to make blood coagulating factors. And she told me, like, I mean, how many people have you had that have told you, like, hey, I'm doing a science experiment and I want to make it a hemophilia? My aunt in her med school, I've had people in biology class who, I want to do a presentation on this. And they would interview me and they would talk to me and I would tell them all these things. And yeah, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the people in my life. But I don't know, I do go through life defensively, where I almost don't want to share sometimes unless it's necessary, unless I'm bleeding. Like recently, I was bleeding from my back and I had to use a cane, and people were just like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And I said, "Oh, my back, it's a bleed, but it's not. It's gonna go away. This isn't permanent. It's gonna go away." And you really do see the difference in the people who are willing to help you, to do small things, even just to help me to walk over some stairs, hand me something, versus the people that are kind of like just looking at you, because it was a party and a
Mm.
lot of people were looking at me. And that's one unfortunate things, is like seeing someone my age with a cane on the bus or on the train, and people won't give up their seat, or they kind of just look at you funny. That's been one of the interesting things, because how society sees it, and how we have an
Yeah.
invisible sickness where you can't just point to people, this is what I
Yeah,
have.
and to talk about the invisible sickness, I feel like I was made fun of, bullied throughout my whole life, pretty much,
Hmm.
until I got into, like, college and whatnot. But basically, the kids just didn't understand. Like, wait, he was on crutches a day ago. Now he's not on crutches. He's a liar. Like, that's what I always got. Like, oh, he had his arm wrapped. Now today he doesn't have his arm wrapped, or he couldn't walk. Now he can't walk. I don't know. I feel like, that insensitivity, like you said with the cane, like people just don't understand. They don't know, or they don't want to understand. So, yeah.
Yeah, that, and how life moves on, how life is so fast. And you almost, I mean, as a kid, you had it where, like, you feel like you were being left behind, or
Mhm.
you couldn't go out and play with the kids,
Mm-hmm.
but the kids could go out and play.
Yeah. I felt
That
that.
was the big one. And for me personally, I didn't meet another hemophiliac until I was 14.
Wow.
So that's, unfortunately, Kaiser didn't really tell me about, like, stuff, groups and stuff that were out there. They just kind of, the doctor at the time, he would just treat me, okay, you're good. But I went through that, like, feeling like I was the only person with this.
Yeah.
And I would always ask my parents, I would ask other people, like, why me? Like, why, out of everyone in this universe, like, why me? And that was the hard one. That was the hard one. And then that's where in meeting the kids, I kind of want them to see like you're not alone.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what question or what emotion you might have, negative or positive, that there's always going to be now a hemophiliac older than you that can answer it or support you or like however it may be that can and tell you, you know, I've hurt myself doing this, I've bleed doing that, I've felt these emotions. I don't have people around. I wish people would understand me. That's the big one, you know.
Yeah, no, I hear
That
you.
was the big one for I've had.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much, man, for sharing a lot of this
No, yeah,
stuff.
it was a good meeting. It was a good meeting. I felt like very warm. My cousin, he went to pick me up and he was like texting me because he had wanted to go to bed. And all the people I met, especially the families I met were they all were
Yeah,
hemophiliacs. So they knew
yeah,
from an age that because we all the families had stories, you know, where they didn't
hmm
know, where they went to the hospital, they separated the mother and the child, and they had to go through that whole thing of like 2 3 days of trying to figure out just how what's going on here. And that's the one that's kind of like it's unavoidable, and all the parents had that, and then the grief of being told, hey, your kid is this isn't just a bruise, what's going on here is
Yeah.
this, and then going
yeah,
through that discovery process. And
yeah,
there were no parents there that had a child or a younger child like that. The youngest child I think was 8 or 9. But I've have been to meetings where there were parents carrying a baby, and that's where my mother and then the parents are such strong people too that I look up to personally because we're just sort of we're on a track when we go through our pain and we go through our bleeds. But the parents, there's so much they have to take care of. There's so much they have to handle, and there's so much understanding that has to go into that from their perspective, at least.
I feel like this episode has been extremely powerful. Honestly, Raul, I think that this is going to be the best podcast episode that we have done yet. I swear it's the things that you've said have really hit home. So I really want to finish with the powerful topic that you brought up, and it was about pain management. You've been open about being prescribed morphine and how your doctor actually increased your dose because you said he trusts you. But you said something really honest. You said, I still see myself as an addict because if I saw pain pills in someone's cabinet, I'd want to take them. But I haven't taken any extra pills in 6 years. I mean, that's real. Can you share what discipline and control looks like for you in that situation? And I just
Um,
think that there's others who are going to go who struggle with this and have.
yeah, after the marathon and I started experiencing pain, I was given what is it, T3, Tylenol with codeine, and a few times they only prescribed me like 10 just to see because they would tell him, hey, he's bleeding so much, he can't sleep, he's screaming in pain, and he's missing school for a week because he's either not sleeping, and they would give it to me. And that was the first time I experienced that, like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I've gone all through these years of just going through pain with nothing, and now there's something. So when I turned 18, it was a different time in pain management, obviously, back when you could go to the ER and they would prescribe you, you know, a big bottle of pills. They put me on morphine early on, and I didn't understand the cost, I guess, that so the whole mental thing of like you can take an extra one. What if I just take an extra one now and I'll feel better then? And through 21 to 23, it was pretty bad where they wanted to cut me off. They cut me off, but my parents were the ones that we all showed up. They all showed up for me to the doctor to say, I don't know what you think is going on, but my son is not a drug addict. He's doing this because he's in pain, and we're there for him. You know, we he's not doing it on his own. We can take charge of it. And they thankfully allowed me to go down. But then the time I wasn't on it was very bad. Like the pain was just very, very bad and I couldn't cope and it was really, really bad. And then that's when I switched from the pediatric doctor to the adult doctor, my current one. And they had a different perspective where they did put me on, it was a doctor that put me on a lot actually, like 150 milligrams a day of what is it? Not codeine. It was extended release and there was another one, quick release, which was looking back was a little bit too much. Maybe a little bit too much. I should have just been like, hey, instead of 30 milligrams 3 times a day, we should have just done, I don't know, 5, 10, 15. So unfortunately, I experienced that and I thought I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. But the drowsiness, especially as you get older, you feel the drowsiness more, how you just want to take more naps. The refill process was always the worst. That was
Mhm.
always the worst because if my doctor wasn't there and they would see my prescription, the doctor immediately just looked at me differently. He either wanted to see me personally, he wanted to ask, and one time in particular, they just said no. They said straight up no, and I went to the ER and I begged. and I felt horrible. And this doctor came in. She gave me a prescription for 4 pills just for the weekend, and she said, "I'm only giving you this because people when they're in withdrawals, they'll go out and they'll buy heroin, and I don't want you to go and overdose of heroin." And I felt like trash. I felt like I was the criminal. I was the worst person in the world. And I didn't tell her no. I didn't say no. I'm not going to take this. I took it because I was already 12 hours, I think 18 hours in withdrawals, and that whole experience of being in withdrawals, going through withdrawals. I've never been past, let's say, 2, 3 days of withdrawals, so I know it could be worse. But just how you can take it and it goes away, and just that like that oh man, that thing, withdrawals, wanting to run away from it, but also understanding that like it took me years to understand that no, I'm in pain because my doctor slowly he went from 150 to where we are now of 15 3 times a day, and we were cutting halves, we were cutting corners, and we reached the point of that equilibrium where I told him honestly, I said, look, I know you want me to go down, but if we go down, my pain becomes unmanageable, but we're not at 6 pills a day, which he allowed me for a time just to kind of get me out of his hair. But and that's where we've kind of found that balance, and we've been there for with my doctor since I was 23, 22, so a good 8 or 9 years where I've proven to him that like I'm not gonna mess up. I'm in control. Even if he's had to tell me sometimes, I'm giving you this much, it's gonna last 30 days, and I don't care what happens, I'm not giving you anything more. Like even if you come early, even if you come complaining, even if you have a broken leg, he's had to tell me that. And being treated differently by pharmacists, seeing orthopedic doctors and them seeing my file, but then once they see that little word, oh, you take morphine, being treated differently.
Yeah.
And that's been the part that has been difficult, but it's taken me into the past 3 to 4 years where I finally understood that like no, I deserve this. This is my prescription. My doctor has given it to me. I've abused nothing and not feeling nervous. I used to feel, oh my God, I used to feel nervous. I used to go to the pharmacy and think today they're going to say no. They're just going to say no, no, we're done. You're cut off. And I've lived years that way, and I still feel it. I mean, unfortunately I suffer from a little bit of anxiety, and
Sure.
that's been the big thing. That's just been getting over that itself,
I mean,
and
I
and
think
also personally understanding what I know. I ask myself this question, like, how do normal people do it? I say, how is it that normal people can live without this? And yet I feel like I need this to be normal, to not be grumpy, to not be angry, to not be sad. That's
Yeah.
the big struggle nowadays that I balance myself with sometimes.
and I think a lot of patients. Thank you for sharing, Raul. I mean, a lot of patients probably that are in their 30s or 40s or older that has hemophilia probably are on some type of chronic pain management, because I mean the factor back then wasn't, I mean, we know wasn't that good for even prophylaxis. The word prophylaxis, I mean, we were on demand treatment where we get a bleed, great, do a shot. There was no preventing anything. And so a lot of us, I would say, in this age group, 30s, 40s, 50s, we have joint damage. And part of this process is, chronic pain management, which you
Hmm.
just alluded to. And so it's like having hemophilia, but this other thing on top of it, like you just, with the pharmacies and people labeling you and this and that. I mean, thank you for sharing your story. I think a lot of folks
Yeah.
can relate. I mean, I think a lot of hemophiliacs can relate. And
Yes.
I appreciate you sharing that because and being candid and vulnerable, because this is a topic that, a lot of people go through. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
They do, and I know the factor products people when they want to talk about pain management. They want to talk about meditation,
Mhm.
stretching, all these other things, but
Sure.
unfortunately the thing that just cuts right through the pain is this one thing, and there's nothing else. I mean, obviously there is options, but when you have a really bad bleed, stretching isn't really going to help you.
Yeah.
And if it could be prevented to someone else, where I could tell them, not just as a hemophiliac, but like as a potential addiction, to try to prevent that also,
Mhm.
I feel is something maybe in the community we could talk about. It doesn't have
Sure.
to be like as honest as maybe I am, where I'm just like, yeah, I'd steal pills, I'd steal pills for my pain. Or for example, I've had family members that have told me like, I would give you my pills. Like they would tell me, I'll give you my pills. I don't care. These are the pills. I'll give them to you. And where I've just been like, it's been a little bit weird. Some of them I did accept during the 3-year gap when I didn't have anything. And looking back, it just feels so like, ugh, I felt so dirty. I felt so like,
Well, I'm
I don't
happy
know.
you're in a better spot now and you're working with your physician and you're able
Hmm.
to get your regimen and you guys have an agreement. And I think that's
Yeah.
good. I mean, the fact that you're out of pain is key. So I mean, we really do appreciate you sharing. And
Yeah. I mean,
these are these candid things that a lot of hemophiliacs go through.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this was your opportunity to share your story, Raul. But I want to say, I've been there. I've gone through that. I've felt those feelings. So I just want to thank you personally for sharing that. Like I said, this is your opportunity to share your story, but don't feel like you're alone. Don't feel like this is,
Yeah.
I think you're not alone. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for your honesty. Your story was raw, it's human, it's real, and it's going to hit home for a lot of people listening now.
Yeah.
So, to everyone tuning in, if you've ever felt misunderstood, unseen, or afraid of change, I hope this conversation reminds you that strength isn't about pretending that everything's okay. It's about facing your truth day after day with courage. This is what the Hemo Life podcast is all about, changing the way you think about living with a chronic disorder and reminding each other that we're more than our diagnosis. So if this episode moved you guys, share it with someone in the community. Follow us on Instagram at Hemo Life Podcast and be a part of this mission. Thank you, Raul, so much, man. And let's stay connected.
No, thank you. Thank you much. It's such a pleasure to finally meet you.
Yeah, you as well.
Thank you,
Bye,
Raul.
guys.
See you
Thank you.
later.
Thank you,
All
Dr.
right.
Joseph.
No problem.
See you guys.